to be politically oriented? Do you want a platform where you get updated with socio-political issues? Then Vigilance is the right place for you. Join Folashade Adebi every Fridays 4 p.m. WAT to discuss socio-political issues in society. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another exciting episode of Vigilance. This is a podcast where we discuss socio-political issues in society. Join me every Fridays for interesting and enlightening episodes. I am your host, Folashade Adebi. You can follow us for more updates by searching Veegil.com on your web browser. Veegil as in Veegil.com. Veegil.com is a debate platform where users get to interact and discuss issues affecting society. You can follow us on our social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, Veegil Media, LinkedIn, Veegil, and Instagram, Veegil_media. And as always, with me is Aminat. Welcome back, Aminat.
Thank you, Folashade. I'm delighted to be here.
It's always good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Let's go back comments from our previous episode tackling corruption in Nigeria. The first comment I have here is from Adebad. He said, "To think that the Buhari administration manifesto laid emphasis on war against corruption, yet we rank as the second most corrupt country in West Africa." Aminat, could you please read the second comment?
Okay, so this is from Chilo. It states that despite the series of efforts targeted at sending the right message, the number of allegations outweighs the trials of cases, and the actual convictions from these trials is minute in relation to the trials. No thanks to the never-ending court cases.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the last comment I have here is from Julie. She said, "I think the Buhari administration has done quite well because looking at the EFCC record cases, they seem to have done quite well under the Buhari administration." Well, thank you for the comment. Be sure to keep the comments coming. Who knows, we might do that to your comment in subsequent episodes. So, in today's episode, we'll be discussing poverty in Nigeria. According to reports by Statista in 2019, the Nigerian state of Sokoto and Taraba had the largest percentage of people living below the poverty line. Besides, a report by the World Poverty Club shows that Nigeria has overtaken India as the country with the most extremely poor people in the world. Note that India has a population that is like 7 times larger than Nigeria. Now over to you, Aminat. What do you think of this?
Well, the high rate of poverty in Nigeria, can be likened to a lack of, or would I rather say, inadequate, policy on population control.
Okay.
Nigeria, for one, is the 7th most populous country in the world and the most populous in Africa.
Okay.
This is a country that is underdeveloped and, lacks basic amenities. Yet, the number keeps climbing. And it's so sad to note that there are really no stringent plans, to cater for this rising population. Unfortunately, again, many Nigerians, earn less than 300 to 400 naira per day.
Wow, that is really pathetic.
Very, very pathetic.
Well, now the question is, for a country with so much mineral resources, how come we're still the country with the most extreme poor people in the world?
Well, true. Nigeria is blessed with both mineral and agric resources.
Okay.
Mineral resources in terms of oil and gas, coal, iron ore, gold, and lots more.
Okay.
Also, agric resource, in terms of cocoa beans, groundnuts, maize, yam, and the likes. You understand? But over the years, we've seen to have neglected the mass production, and exploitation of other resources,
Okay.
for crude oil. Um, up until, would I say, in the 1950s, up until I think it's 1970s,
Mm.
Nigeria was regarded as the second largest producer of cocoa, in the world. These resources are often not utilized to their full potential.
Okay.
Take for instance, this same crude oil that seems to be like the only resource that we
We never have
are
in
we
Nigeria.
are all focused
Mm.
on today in Nigeria,
Okay.
has about 6,000 products, and we are just focused on just a selected few, you know. Well, it's good that we know that we've been told, that the
Mm.
Port Harcourt refinery will be revamped, you know, and of course, we know that the Dangote refinery too is in the pipeline,
Okay.
So we are hoping, I for one, I'm really hopeful that this should, give room for, more employment opportunities, increase in exports,
Okay.
especially the funds we'll be getting from the exports. You understand? I'm also hoping that we get to see, increase in the number of SMEs, that would come into the supply chain,
Okay.
that would, also facilitate the effective distribution of these products across board.
Thank you. So, how do you think the government can eradicate poverty?
All right. So first off, I feel like the government has to put in place favorable policies that
Okay.
would make, take for instance, the agri sector, more attractive,
Okay.
and then policies in terms of security.
Mm.
You understand? So this would, by the time we address security, it will give room for both local and foreign investors to come into that sector, right? Considering the issues we're having
Now
now around security and farmers, having
being
to
killed.
flee
Yes.
their
Yes.
farmland and things like that. So I feel if we have good policies in place to checkmate that, we'll see a rise in the number of local and foreign investors in that sector. I would also um, love to see policies in terms regarding the various players in the sector, the operations of the various players in the sector.
Mm.
Now, players in terms of those that are going to be like participants, people that would, you know, play a particular any role really, whether coming as investor, whether coming as a laborer, whether as whatever it is in the supply chain, whoever is going to be in that sector. I would love to see policies to address things like monopoly,
Mm.
things like having to, like, say, fight dirty.
Okay.
Some people wouldn't mind going to whatever length, just as far as they get to take the spotlight, and these are things that are bad for investments. You can't have a place where it's sort of like a free for all for everyone and expect to have people come to put in their hard-earned funds in that sector. So I also feel it's not just about policy, because we have
Okay.
so many policies in place, no doubt. You understand? So I would want the government to also try to ensure that these policies are effectively implemented. You understand? Implemented as they should, so that we could have, adequate checks and balances, in place to address whatever it is that one would expect. You understand? By so doing, I feel like they would get to see numerous entries into the sector,
Okay.
and this would go as far as creating like a ripple effect, in the sense that we will now have more people that will be gainfully employed in that sector,
Mm.
gainfully employed in form of us now having more farmers, you understand, now having even as far as market traders, you understand, because when we have more people come into the sector, you know, different ideologies, different kinds of ways of generating income will come to play.
Well, I actually like your thought on that. That will actually up the employment rate, because we have a really low
Of course, that's the
rate.
point. That's the point, because an average person that seems jobless now would now like have a reason to want to look towards, okay, the agric sector is doing fine.
Yes.
There are a lot of
they have to make it attractive
or whatever.
Yes.
The person now gets to be spontaneous in going to look towards, okay, how can I also set myself up, even in whatever small way I can, and that's like we begin to see a lot of market traders come on board, even those that will just open some kiosks in front of whatever it is. You start seeing that one way or the other, people are also tagging along with the progress that is being recorded in that sector. You understand? Yeah. Another thing is we would also get to see companies that deal in this agri-produce too. There would also be this need for them to perhaps want to expand. You understand? Or even those that seem like their activities were already dwindling before, they would now begin to get back to what they used to be before. Perhaps some of them are even laid off staffs in the past. There will not be a need to either call back or even recruit or whatever. Whatever action they now decide to take, whether expansion, whether having to scale up on their staff strength and the likes, these are things that would, help to make people directly, indirectly become gainfully employed. And by so doing, we'll be addressing poverty, you understand, in Nigeria. And then also, it goes even beyond employment, to even we'll begin to see an increase in agricultural produce, you understand, in the society, because all of these players now, by the time they commence activity at full scale or at an optimal level, you understand, definitely whatever they are harvesting would begin to rise when you have plenty people harvesting, even if it's small bits. By the time you look at everything, it becomes a lump sum. So definitely we will see a rise in the agri produce that will be manufactured or produced as a whole. And when that is done, really, you're going to now see that both the supply of food would now be on the rise. You understand? And this will now be able to match the demand we have when you look at our growing population.
To sort of up the inflation.
Exactly. So by the time the forces of demand and supply as well, by the time they come to play, you understand, we will be able to have a situation where prices of these commodities will reduce. Now, also another thing is for government to be able to help expand the production capacity too. It would be nice to see that they create easy access to soft loans, you understand, modern equipment, and even go as far as perhaps conducting trainings on best practices for various players in the agri sector. Another thing would be perhaps for government to also look towards revamping our education sector, right? Because the honest truth is the syllabus we've used, for one, I feel it's not addressing today's realities. You understand? It's back then when I was in school, we have situations where the syllabus that was used for 4-5 sets ahead of you is still what is passed to you. In fact, funny enough, I used to have a teacher back then. I think he taught us geography, and he comes to class without anything, no books, no notes. He just gives us the notes off the top of his head.
Mm.
And the funny thing is, I and my siblings, we sort of went to the same school, so we passed through him at different years. And I can tell you for a fact that comparing notes, our
It's the
notes,
same.
you understand? And so it's funny to see such things happen.
Mm.
And whether you like it or not, there's been changes in the realities, even as at then. Let's talk of now. So it will be sad to see if the same notes that were given some 10, 15 years back is still what students in that same school perhaps are still receiving currently. It would be, you understand? So I feel there is a need for us to revamp our education sector to address today's realities.
Okay.
And in addressing today's realities would mean that, we are sort of preparing, graduates. We are giving them a level playing ground where they get to garner relevant skill sets, you understand, that will be needed to succeed in the
outside
workplace.
world, yes.
Such that, not necessarily even in the workplace, such that even outside, for some of them, perhaps after 1 year, 2 years of trying out the white collar jobs, if it's not forthcoming, they are able to start off on their own because they already have this skill
sets, yes.
You understand? So they can actually go in there and get themselves self-employed, become entrepreneurs. You understand? Without necessarily having to just sit back and hoping for a day when that perhaps white collar job will come through. What if it never comes? How do they fend for themselves? You understand? But when they have this relevant skill set, there's no need to keep waiting for what is not. Rather, it pushes them to, set the ball rolling and create something, even when there seems to be nothing really. You understand? Because they already have this skill set that is adequate for them to, you understand, to strive in today's world. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like even by the time we have all of these addressed in the education sector, it will even help us to eradicate, the time and the funds that we waste in job hunting.
Or even learning more skills.
Exactly. Because these are people are beginning to feel like, as a graduate, I'm not sufficient to fit into the workplace. You understand? They now feel the need to want to go the extra mile to learn more skills. But if all this has been taken care of in the school, you understand? There's no need to start wasting funds trying to relearn these things because these skill sets are already present. They already have them. You understand? It would even help to ensure that employers don't waste funds in trying to train employees on things that they should have already,
the basic skill set, yes.
Exactly, that should have already been addressed while they were in school. You understand? So perhaps if their training now, it is for something much more cogent, you understand, to help them succeed on the job. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. It will also help companies cut back on costs that they lose due to poor performance of these ill-prepared graduates that we see that are being churned out on a daily basis or yearly basis as the case may be. You understand?
Okay.
Yeah, and it's also sad to note that Nigeria is home to over 10 million out-of-school children. Let me even take you to a report by UNESCO, saying that we have about 10.5 million children in Nigeria that are aged 5 to 14 that are out of school. Also, we have just about 61% of 6 to 11-year-olds, that regularly attend primary school. You understand? And only about 35.6% of children that are aged 36 to 59 months receive early childhood education.
That is sad for a giant of Africa.
Do you understand? So when you look at reports like this, you begin to see that perhaps, this is why we are where we are as a nation. This is why poverty seems to be the order of the day. Because let's come to think of it, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying education is the only thing that is required to succeed. or
Okay.
eradicate poverty at that. Do you understand? It doesn't necessarily have to be formal education. Do you understand? It could also be vocational trainings. Do you understand?
Mm.
So I feel for a child growing up, if the formal education is not possible, we should create an avenue where it is easy
For the child to
to
switch.
get this
Mm.
vocational trainings.
Mm.
So that is where the government should come into place. They should make the environment,
Friendly.
yes, and suitable for all.
Mm.
You understand? Because right now it feels like if you are one with those vocational skills, it's difficult to survive in Nigeria.
Mm.
You understand? There are no lights. There are no basic amenities. Someone who is a barber, how does the person cope when there's no lights? Someone who is a tailor, someone who deals with sale of drinks and the likes, someone who is a welder. How do they survive? You understand? So yes, it's not just about people gaining these skill sets to or going through this formal education or vocational training. The government should also make the environment conducive
Mm.
for everyone with these skill
Skill
sets
set.
to
Okay.
thrive. You understand?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. A final question, Aminat. So, what measures do you think the government have put in place to tackle poverty?
Yeah, one that comes to mind is the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay.
Yeah, it's currently being headed by, if I remember correctly, Adejoke
Oh yes.
Orelokwe.
Yes.
Yeah,
That is correct.
exactly. Yeah,
Mm.
she was, I think, the governor, deputy governor during the Fashola administration in
Okay.
Lagos. Yes. Um, in one of our remarks, to the Senate committee, she made mention of the fact that projects that were included in the 2019 budget for that parastatal,
Okay.
have been fully implemented, and that there were no outstanding, there were no uncompleted or ongoing projects. You
Okay.
understand? And that's good too. That's a very nice thing to have, really. And I hope that this level of completion, this 100% completion rate, can be maintained going forward. And hopefully, we get to see increase in the standard of living of Nigerians, because there have been several reports in the news, and she's been doing wonderfully well in that parastatal.
Okay.
So hopefully we get to see much more effort coming out from that.
We definitely hope so. Definitely hope so. Okay. Thank you for your thoughts, Aminat.
You're welcome.
So that will be all on today's episode. To join in the ongoing debate, kindly drop your comments on the platform veegil.com. Endeavor to share this podcast with your friends, family, and loved ones. For our YouTubers, kindly like, share, comment, subscribe, and click on the notification button for more updates. Bye.
Bye.